I'm Matt Farber. I'm president of Double Bounce. Real quickly, it's a digital content company. It's a consortium of 25 leading television production companies that have big lifestyle hits on cable. And what we do is we take the pilots they produce that were just too good to sell to television and bring them to folks like we have on the panel to produce them as branded entertainment minisodes. And we have a wonderful, esteemed panel. It's kind of like the dating game, 1 bachelorette and 3 bachelors. So, let me introduce, we'll start with our bachelorette. Anna Robertson is the head of Yahoo Studios, where she oversees Yahoo's original video productions, including 12 of the top 12 video shows online. Yahoo was nominated for an Emmy Award and won both a Webby and an Edward R. Murrow Award for video journalism. And Anna, prior to that, spent a decade at ABC News, award-winning senior producer at Good Morning America and producer for Diane Sawyer. All right, next, our first bachelor would be, it's Brad. Brad Murphy is the Chief Revenue Officer for Revision 3, and that is the television network for the internet generation. Murphy has worked for some of the most influential technology media companies, including Tech TV, CNET, and Hearst. And at Revision 3, Brad's pioneered a unique video sponsorship model that leverages social influence marketing to connect brands with engaged viewers. Next, bachelor number 2 is Scott Donatin, who is the CEO of Ensemble. And Ensemble is the branded entertainment arm of Interpublic's Global Media Agencies Initiative and Universal McCann. Before launching Ensemble, Scott was a publisher of Entertainment Weekly. And during his tenure, the title was named one of Adweek's magazine brand leaders. And before joining Time Inc., he was the longtime editor and publisher of Ad Age, where he founded the highly successful Madison and Vine franchise. And finally, bachelor number 3 is Brian Fitzgerald, who's president and co-founder of Evolve Media, which includes several businesses, including Gorilla Nation, the world's largest brand ad sales company that specializes in targeting affinity audience, Atomic Online, which is the publisher of large digital media properties such as She Knows, which is the number 3 on ComScore for women, and Springboard Studios, which is a one-stop branded entertainment video solution. Prior to that, he was an entertainment industry intellectual property lawyer, but we won't hold that against him. So, anything else you guys want to say, just that I got wrong or didn't cover about yourself, or was that sufficient?
I think we needed some music.
Right. Okay. So, this panel, I'm just going to sort of tee it up with. So this is, in the world right now that we live in, video started in the world as, grandma standing on her head on YouTube, and that wasn't exactly premium, although proved to be quite popular. It wasn't anything that, brands necessarily wanted to associate with. And then it sort of moved to a lot of volume of content, a lot of how-to stuff, and, some of the companies, the video ad networks, and companies like Demand Media started participating in that. And now we are seeing, and everyone here on this panel is involved in, original premium series. And a lot is going on. It's still in its infancy. Some of the models economically are challenging, and we'll discuss some of that here. But it's stuff that can be tailored for advertisers. And then, of course, the final end of the premium continuum digitally is stuff that we know. You miss Glee on Fox and watch it on Hulu, but that's not, necessarily original content. So, with that being said, let's start. Oh, I know, I'm forgetting to show everyone's videos, so give you a sense of what each company does. So let's do that. All right, we'll start with Anna's, ladies first. And this is a sense of what Yahoo does.
The go-to place for the web's best news, entertainment, lifestyle, and sports coverage. And check this out. Yahoo has some of the most popular video programs on the web that showcase in-depth interviews, unique features, and exclusive performances you can't find anywhere else.
OMG,
Strategy Now provides your daily dose of breaking celebrity and entertainment news.
Watch the thread for the latest star styles, how to get the celebrity look for less, and vote for who wore it best.
Vestidos que no vacían tus bolsillos, aquí en De Moda.
I'm Jim Brasher, and this is not your ordinary weekend.
My name is Terry Peterson, and I'm 54 years young, and I'm an extreme mountain unicyclist.
Members of the House and Senate get $174,000 a year, plus a spiffy pen.
Welcome to the Daily Ticker, where Dan and I just had a conversation with David Walker.
So if $1.4 million for this Bugatti is a little too much for your budget, you might want to come over here to the Lamborghini.
Hi, I'm Frank Nicotero, host of Yahoo's Primetime in No Time, your source for TV's buzziest water cooler moments.
Hi, I'm Taylor Swift, and this is Ram Country on Yahoo Music.
I think what we'll do is we'll intersperse, the folks' different sizzle reels with some of the questions, so that as appropriate. So let's start, since we just saw Anna's, the big story that sort of happened over the past 2 weeks in terms of original video was the announcement of the YouTube channel strategy. And so Anna, YouTube just announced a programming slate, if you will, or a channel slate. And Yahoo just announced and launched its first programming slate. And how would you say your strategy in terms of original content differs from what YouTube announced?
Well, first of all, I'd just say that I think, I don't know what the expression is, but the tide rises all ships. I think that the YouTube announcement and what we're doing as well is great for all of us here and great for anybody who cares about content creation and talent coming to the internet. So it's a really exciting time. I think what I'd say about our strategy is that we've been building audience around these kinds of shows that you saw in the video for years. Primetime and No Time is a show we've been doing for 4 or 5 years. It has 500 million streams. So I think we've been successfully driving audience to these programs. We also are exploring a channel strategy that's a lot more focused than YouTube's. They've launched 100 different channels. I think all of us probably know that not all of those are going to succeed. So we launched a female-oriented slate of programming earlier this year to offer advertisers the opportunity to kind of buy into a collection of premium programs, and we're going to be announcing another one of those slates coming up in the next 2 weeks, and another one, for next year. So we're just kind of a lot more strategic and focused on our specific channels. And I think what differentiates us from YouTube is, YouTube is really a video platform and a video sales platform. We're more of a holistic media organization and a place where we can provide context. We have the most licensed content, premium licensed content that you can find on the web, anywhere. So we kind of bring together the licensed content and the original programming and the great text and the media content. So it's just a different strategy. I think YouTube is really going straight for the video piece. And I'm really excited to see how it works for them, how they're able to build audience around those programs.
So Brad, Revision 3 and its related shows and channels are some of the most popular YouTube channels. I didn't see Revision 3 announced as part of the first wave of YouTube partnerships. So given the channel strategy that YouTube has, how does this affect or change kind of with Revision 3s and the Machinimas and folks like you that have been the YouTube mainstays in terms of original content?
Well, I think for us, the strategy is no different. We want to build great content and build communities around that content, because that's what we're able to go out and monetize. And so with the big announcement, the majority of the channels that they were announcing are celebrity driven, and I think there's a great PR opportunity here. I think there's a lot of buzz around it. But I'll be curious to see how many of those shows actually survive, because it's one thing to make great content, but with online video, you really have to connect with the community, and that's not something you can do once a week. It's something that the real quality shows that we work with, the quality shows that are existing online currently, have that connection and have that constant maintenance. And so I think those that get that, those that embrace the model, will do very well. As far as Revision 3's position within the announcement, we're working on a few other things that could play into it, but for right now, we're focused on our existing shows because of the way that we can monetize those shows. But again, it's all about content that builds a community. That community engagement is what's so important for us.
All right, Mr. Fitzgerald. Your owned and operated sites and the Gorilla Nation ad network allow for context around and distribution of original series. Do you ever see the possibility of your company, your brands having a YouTube channel, or would any extra views they generate not be worth the fact that they would be part of the revenue pie?
Yeah, you know, YouTube has not been a major focus for us from a distribution standpoint. And I think that's because we have a lot of owned and operated publishing assets with a large domestic audience, about 53 million uniques a month. So we've been really focused on how, whether it's a site like Crave Online, whether it's a site like She Knows, how do we produce original programming cost effectively that's going to resonate with our audience, where we can get sort of the distribution and the scale against it. You know, redistributing that or syndicating that content out through a YouTube channel or something like that. I mean, it's interesting from the standpoint of just building awareness for your brand, for your programming, but from a monetization standpoint, it's very difficult to cost effectively monetize against YouTube. You know, the amount of money that you need, you know, the CPM that you need to sell against, and then the logistics involved in actually trafficking and managing that relationship and that piece of revenue hasn't been interesting to us.
Gotcha. Okay, Scott, ultimately companies like yourself that represent the brands that fund all this in the end. So here comes YouTube, you already have a line out your door, and now there's a million other channels. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I think a couple of good points here. From a brand perspective, back to what Anna was saying, it's like the more YouTube and Yahoo, Hulu, Netflix get involved in creating original content, the better. It's more choice, it's more option. That's always a good thing for brands. I think the concern and the thing that we're watching is that the digital space for brands has been a place to play and develop new models. And what I'm hearing in some of the things that are coming out is almost, how can we act more like cable TV or broadcast TV? And we don't need another cable TV model. We don't need another digital upfront. We don't need, in my perspective, for people to come with us with just prepackaged shows and inventory. I mean, I'll change that a little bit. We need that. That will always be part of the business, and there's a part of the buying and planning of media and eyeballs that will be part of that. But when we talk about what we've been able to do in the digital content space to really move brands upstream in the development of content, that's something that I hope as all of these companies go into it, they will really turn to brands. So with the YouTube channels right now, all of the production companies that have deals with the Yahoo channels, and it's a lot of the same production companies, they're dying to talk to us about how to make brands true partners in the content. In some cases, it's being told, hold on, we'll come to you with the package, and the, you know. So it's a chicken and egg thing. The distribution piece, the guaranteed audience, the ability to analyze media, the ability to connect it to real goals is something that's important. I just hope that what's not lost is the desire to have brands play at the earliest phases as opposed to coming with more of a cable TV model.
Okay, I love the McLaughlin group on Sunday morning, so I like to, after some questions, just sort of like get a quick thing. So, YouTube strategy, will it be successful or not? 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely, 1 being total disaster. Give it a number. Just a number, no commentary.
7.
Okay.
I was going to say 7.
You can say.
I would say 7 or 8. I think they'll do well.
7. I'm gonna say 8, assuming it gets properly integrated with IPTV.
Okay. I'm going to say 4, because they're going to get ad interest and they have the ability to promote to get views. But instead of hiring programmers or established web series studios like Revision 3, they've hired TV producers, production companies that really don't necessarily understand how things work on the web. So I think there'll be a shakeout, and then maybe they'll be successful after that.
I think this is just phase 1 of what they're doing, though. I think there's more to come, that I think the overall strategy that they're rolling out is better positioned for success.
And also, I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had about what does success mean in what we're doing. I mean, we think about this all the time. Does that mean, is it audience? Is it brand? Is it revenue? Even is it, who knows? And I think as folks who've started original programs, and we're already looking back at the slate of shows we just launched and saying, okay, is this getting audience? Is it the right kind of brand for us? Do we need to rotate it out? Just like a TV network would, where they would, ditch the show that's not performing well. So I think that's an unanswered question for everybody here and for YouTube. What does success mean?
I wonder, with sort of the progress into IPTV, and you look at, that sort of lean back TV consuming experience, and it lends itself to longer form content, sitting back, you're dedicated, and what you're selecting from, I mean, even 500 channels on cable is overwhelming, and you pick a couple. And so I think I'm curious to see how, at the end of the day, when you see the web integrated with TV, how the discovery of content happens. And right now, I think YouTube's playing in look, it's costless for us, right? We're going to throw $5 million at a bunch of different, content creators, sort of get a lot of different channels going, see what works, and then at the end of the day, they'll, sort of boil it down and sort of filter and synthesize it down into these are the most popular channels, and these are the ones that we're going to take that limited screen space on the TV, heavily promote, and sure, if people want to search and go deeper and discover other types of content, it'll be there for consumption. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Mine was a contrarian 4. It's 4 for ultimately, I don't think the first go around, I think there'll be a lot of shakeout. And so, but ultimately, look, YouTube is the category killer in terms of video online,
Stand by your skepticism.
Yeah.
What?
Stand by your skepticism.
Well, 4 first, 7 later. All right. Does the same formula for what makes a successful television series translate to what makes a successful online series? I'll start with you, Scott. Ensemble.
God, I hope not.
Well, Ensemble recently did the Always Open series with Denny's. Had celebrity talent. Kind of a talk show of sorts. Could have been a television series. So, what did you do different? What was different about that than you would have done if it was a television series with Denny's?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious thing is the time, right? Is these were 5-minute segments, and I think in that case they really worked as that. And I think trying to stretch what we did with Denny's, it was a cool series we did called Always Open with Dum Dum as the production partner, Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Sarah Silverman, great, and it really moved the brand metric of helping to make Denny's more relevant among 18, 24-year-olds, while not being a commercial for the brand at all, being standalone, cool entertainment. Those were done in a way that I think took advantage of how people consume on the web. We were approached by one network about, we see this could potentially be a bigger thing, and we just don't. We think it actually would begin to lose its relevance to the brand and potentially its audience interest. But I think in the bigger question there, too often there's been this notion still of if this really works on the web, then it can graduate to television. And success is, and what you're starting to hear again, this idea that, oh, wait a minute, if I can get a brand to fund a web series, I've then got a pilot, I've got a backdoor pilot, to get something on television. And I think we have to, and hopefully the more the Yahoos and YouTubes of the world are investing in original content and channel strategies, that means that the content creators who create for them are trying to create long-standing franchises and hits for them, not as a first step towards a TV property. So I think hopefully what will happen, one of the results of this will be that we'll learn more about what does make a great web show and what does, or mobile or digital, in any platform, what does differentiate that from television, and how can we create that way as opposed to, and how can we succeed that way as opposed to thinking success means traveling on to television.
I think it's also, it's a function of what's your medium. right? TV's broadcast, web is broadcast in terms of reach, but narrowcast in terms of audience aggregation. And so I don't think the two will ever sort of match. I mean, how many times have you seen things that were somewhat successful on the web, even back to the early days of Icebox, and then, and people have taken it and tried to translate it to TV and it doesn't work, and vice versa. I mean, TV is you have a mass audience, and trying to gain the type of at-reach distribution on the web doesn't work. I mean, the kind of content that works is taking something and producing it cost effectively against a very narrow audience, and hoping you can scale that online audience out, but oftentimes it doesn't.
But I think it's changed. I don't think the web is, while the web offers narrowcast, it does offer mass reach. I mean, YouTube is case in point that you can get the same reach that you can with traditional TV. You look at, or cable TV at least, you look at the top 10 networks that are ComScore ranked on Yahoo right now, and a lot of them are reaching more than the top 10 cable networks. For me, though, I don't think it's about the formula. It's not the formula that's working on TV is going to translate into the formula that works on online, and I think you're right. If we're looking at online graduating to TV as being successful, then we're looking at it the wrong way. But good content means that there's an audience that's engaged with that content, that cares about that content, that wants to see that content. And that formula needs to exist, because with online, with on-demand content, the BS factor's there. If somebody doesn't love what they're watching, they're not going to come back and watch it again. So you need to make great content, you need to appeal to a community, and you need to make it easy for that community to access your content. I think that's the recipe for success, whether you're using mass reach of television or specific audience strategy.
By the way, if we can create something that becomes a hit and then migrates to other platforms, right? Whether that's film, television, merchandise, whatever it is, that's how you build franchises. And I think that part of it is great. It's just this idea that, if you're going to do a show in the hope that it, again, becomes a TV show and stops being, as opposed to, there was a TV show that was inspired by this hit digital series, and there was maybe a film that was inspired by it, and vice versa. And I think it's just maybe it's playing with words, but it's
Anna, let me ask you one more thing about this point before we move on. So we're all in agreement right now that certainly until the days of connected television, it's still primarily a lean-forward experience, and it's short form, and as you said, always open works better and was designed to be short form as opposed to a 30-minute show. And your background is you essentially produced short form stuff within a brand, Good Morning America, and now you're producing short form. So how do you think about things differently in producing short form shows than short form segments within an hour of Good Morning America?
I think the main difference is just the insights that we have about our audience. A lot of our programming is really insight-driven programming because we have so many people coming to Yahoo. We know what people are searching for, what kinds of things, what questions they want answered. And that's what's really exciting about creating content for the web, whether it be news content or whether it even be entertainment kind of content, where you can really look at what the community and the audience wants to know and respond directly to that. And I think, to Scott's point, I totally agree that what works for the web. When I came to Yahoo, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they take TV segments or even just regular old GMA segments and they just put them on the web and they think that people will consume them in the same way, and they just don't, because their behavior is so different on the web. But I think that the more that we can start the conversation of, that started on the web and now that's something that TV might want to pick up, that's what's really exciting to me. We need a couple of those cases. We need more than just web therapy to start the conversation with the Hollywood community and with others who maybe aren't quite as immersed in web video as us, to really say the creativity is starting, innovation is starting on the web. Like the interviews are coming to the web. We just did one with Chelsea Clinton. She never speaks to anybody. And all the TV networks were calling saying, can we get that clip? And so that's the conversation I love to have, whether it's a news piece or something converting to TV.
Well, since I asked the question, I have no shortage of opinion. The one thing that I see that will always be the same is, characters and stories matter, in either place. But, the hugest difference is, what makes something successful on the web still is if the social media component. In a place where it's hard, as you point out, with so many things and to get share of voice, the promotion is ultimately that stuff that people want to send and share with others. I think that's a huge differentiating factor. Let's show Revision 3's reel, and then we'll get into the next question.
A network of original shows that are reinventing the TV experience. Want to know how? How do you please this notoriously picky 18 to 34-year-old male audience?
That is physically and freaking possible.
We got our burgers, bacon, chicken.
The answer is quite simple. Revision 3's award-winning shows feature authentic, engaging hosts who are experts, not actors, and have built dedicated communities around their videos.
And the results are amazing.
I get you.
Welcome to Techzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech.
Futuristic.
Both of these cameras record in 1080p video.
Some photos emerged of a new device, the Droid HD.
The new iPhone will feature Apple's A5 processor.
Just like you like them, lady.
Today, we're looking at a hot new game.
You can build your own Mac, which we call a Hackintosh.
I think Streets of Rage is incredible. I just didn't know you were a Mac on it.
And you die a lot. Like, it's really hard to play. Just push a button. Bang, 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 bang. Punch, punch, kick, punch. Extreme close-up, sort of semi-zoom, but you can't really see what's happening.
All this creates an environment in which these trusted hosts organically introduce brands to our viewers.
Old Spice, at Old Spice, and tweet the manliest tweet you can think of.
The Fiesta is great for folks living in urban areas.
It's made to conserve energy, so you go down with the force and it transferred through the cool ZigTech.
Those geniuses over at Coors Light have solved the problem with the cold activation window.
HPD V17 with Beats Audio.
If you want to reach a powerful, engaged, connected, and elusive young male audience in a way that cuts through the clutter and delivers real, measurable, and meaningful results, you simply go with the leader, Revision 3.
Okay, so premium digital series and branded entertainment, obviously, as we're seeing in the tapes, are getting better and better in terms of quality and stuff that people would actually watch. But as we talked about, how do people find it? So, views can be generated through homepage promotion on portals like Yahoo or, front page of She Knows. Cross promotion within Rev3 video that promotes something else. Distribution partnerships, paid search, social media sharing. So I'd love to hear from the panel sort of what methods you employ, each employ, and sort of from everyone also the effectiveness and the value of views from each strategy, because not every view has the same value depending on where it's coming from. So let's start with Brad. Epic Mealtime, arguably one of the biggest web hits, millions of subscribers and views. How did you get there?
Well, I mean, that's a lightning in a bottle runaway hit, where these guys decided they wanted to start making, none of them were chefs, but decided they wanted to do a cooking show and just went over the top and started to, last year for Thanksgiving, took a turducken, wrapped it in bacon, stuffed it inside of a pig, wrapped that in bacon, basted it in Jack Daniels, and that was their meal. And so immediately, I think that's got 11 million views on that episode now, and so they saw the opportunity to just keep the characters, as you mentioned, and the personality of the show consistent, and they built it up that way. I think with that show in particular, and with all of Revision 3 shows, we don't have the benefit of Yahoo's audience or some of these other larger sites that can steer directly to a specific piece of content. And so subscriptions are key. Discovery is going to happen organically, but once you get somebody that loves the show, you need to make it easy for them to come back and watch more of the show. And so subscriptions are huge, and also cross-promotion or collaborations. So if you've got other people that you work with that have an existing audience that might appeal, or that the new content might appeal to, trying to loop those audiences or those hosts together in a way that can create discovery. And so for us, it's all organic growth, but it's trying to push it as hard as we can so that the audience does a lot of the promotion for us.
Yeah. So Anna, you have tons of shows. There hasn't been, and they're consistent, and there's a volume. There isn't, let's say, one epic mealtime yet that's been absolute lightning in a bottle. Would you say, so from your perspective, how do you get the views? And is it you focus on one show or just an aggregate across all your shows? Is that the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we have the luxury of 180 million people coming to Yahoo every month, so that has been our main driver of traffic, and we've looked at how we can optimize our front page to be much more video friendly. I think a lot of you will be seeing a new Yahoo front page this week that has a lot more video in it. It has a film strip on the bottom that's calling out the brands of our shows and making it a lot easier to find, because typically what we do is we just make the video something that our users will want to click on in terms of the content, and they get to the show. We don't kind of promote it as much, but we are getting a lot scrappier in terms of the way that we're trying to find audience. We have obviously social media pages for each of the shows so that people can subscribe that way. We have a new video destination which is called Screen, which you can find at screen.yahoo.com, and that's a much more Hulu-like experience with a lot more video discovery options. And I think the big thing is that we've learned in the past couple of weeks with the launch of our slate is celebrity really can help, and personality. The fact that they have social media bases, they involve their friends. We have Niecy Nash doing a show for us. She has a huge social media base. She's friends with Sherry Shepherd. She has her on the show. They both tweet the show out and Facebook it. People start clicking on it. We're doing a show with Fabio Viviani from Top Chef, and people just love the show and love him. So it kind of just spreads and builds an audience because people know him and love him. So I think that we oftentimes on the web sort of undercut the value of celebrity because it's so much about the content, but it really can be a huge help in the old-fashioned way of just getting eyeballs and getting excitement towards a show.
I think we need to redefine the definition of a hit, first of all, especially in the digital space. So, first of all, you can buy as much audience as you want on certain things, and there's that piece of it. Secondly, everybody would love to be, I would certainly love to be, part of something that happens authentically where you're like, oh my God, we created this thing and it exploded and 20 million people saw it and I became famous as a result of it, and everybody's talking about it and buzzing about it and knows what it is instantly. But the real issue is it's almost like a party. It's not about how many people you have there, it's do you have the right people there. And we created a series this summer for BMW for their 6 Series convertible called Alter Egos, and it followed the hidden weekend passions, personal passions of people who are well known for other things. And we ran that. Now, the 6 Series convertible, if you don't know, is a $100,000 car. Not only is it a $100,000 car, it's a weekend car for most of its buyers. It's sometimes a third or fourth car. So what I'm really saying there is it's a very small target audience that's going to buy a $100,000 weekend car. And we chose as the primary distribution partner for these films Plum. And if you're not familiar with Plum, it's large. It's a television network, and we ran, and it happens to air in places where people go to indulge their alter egos, their personal passions. So it's Miami Beach and Vail and Hamptons and the like, and those kinds of markets. And we ran it online, and we did it. We premiered it at a couple of film festivals, Nantucket Film Festival, things like that. And it really found the audience. Now, we had people come to us later who saw it and say, we want to run this in movie theaters. We think you should run this on movie screens. We had a cable network come and say, we'd like to run these as 2-minute versions of these as programming vignettes. And it was like all of them would have hit the wrong audience and would have been waste. And so we didn't do it. And again, I think it's the same thing with the Denny's Always Open. There were people who said it had a good audience, but it could have been a bigger audience. But you know what? Sarah Silverman is talking about anal warts while she eats at a Denny's. That's funny to an 18-year-old, a 45-year-old mother in the Midwest, maybe not so much. And Denny's actually didn't want the 45-year-old mom in the Midwest to watch that. They love her as a customer, and they'll target her in other ways. So, I think we have to be careful about just defining hits by numbers.
That's a great point.
And by the way, Scott is, for one lucky member in the audience of this panel, is getting one of those BMW 6 Series cars. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. 2 of them, I think.
Ryan, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think, the problem with the web is you take Scott's approach, and it's really sort of paying a premium for, forget the production, for finding the right audience and being happy with, hey, I don't need to scale this to 30 million people. That's not my goal. My goal is, I have a very sort of niche or target audience. It's a very defined group, and I'll pay up to just reach them. And the problem with, the way mean, look, at the end of the day, we can produce a lot of different types of videos, right? We can produce really edgy stuff that is lightning in a bottle, and it's, you know, crazy guys cooking crazy stuff, and it can definitely attract an audience. That, absolutely. Whether it's, quote, brand safe, whether that definition of brand safe, it varies in terms of, well, if the distribution against it's small and it's kind of edgy, most brands would say pass. If it's huge and it's a runaway, then, you know, things all of a sudden become a little bit more brand safe. But at the end of the day, we're all in this to figure out, how do I monetize the video and make money? And so Yahoo, us, you know, we sort of take a more measured approach. We sort of look at it and go, look, we have an audience, and we know that they're interested in consuming X and Y, you know, sort of types of content, and let's produce good premium sort of professional stuff, seed it, tease it, and get them to consume that. And so we're not really engaging any, and with an eye towards, it's all brand safe, and whether that's leading with it where the brand is actually sponsoring and financing the production, or whether you know it's brand safe, you're going to go ahead and green light it, and then you'll find, you know, a brand that's willing to sort of put themselves in and around that environment. And that's different than, you know, but like a Revision 3, it's great. It's sort of find these pockets, you know, these sort of affinity pockets, and you find the audience and you sort of produce something cool and edgy that's really going to resonate with the audience. The question is, can you get the scale on distribution? And then once you do, how hard is it to really get brands to buy into it? And if all you're doing is monetizing through an ad network, right now that's easy, right? There's high demand, they want to cram the CPM down, and you know, you can monetize, but if you really want to produce a program that you're going to take to a brand, you know, like Scott, and say, hey, we want to produce this together, that's tougher. There's going to be there's going to be a different type of conversation happening between the content creator, where's the distribution coming from, you know, there's a lot more there. There's a lot more levers and sort of dynamics at play.
Well, and I think the definition of brand safety is key, because what's safe for Denny's is not necessarily safe for BMW. And so having the relationships and the conversations with the brands to ensure they know where they're going to be placed is key. But you know, for a show like Epic Mealtime with 28 million views a month, that is mass reach, and that's an opportunity for a brand to be exposed to that male 18 to 34 demo, but also to be done in such a way that they can't access that audience with that same connection with other vehicles that are out there right now. So when you get the host of these shows to mention a product, whether it's, you know, Monster energy drink or Netflix, and then you can steer the conversation that's happening among that community, that brand impact is huge. And so for us, it's not about buying distribution, it's about organic distribution that builds up a community, and that's where we can bring in you know, premium brands into that, and that's where we can charge a premium to those brands because the engagement is so much higher. But I think it's, you know, what works for one brand and what works for one show is not necessarily going to work across the board.
Okay, so Mike Goofy McLaughlin, you know, one choice answers. Of all the different ways a view can be generated, social media sharing, promotion within another video, cross promotion within a destination site like Gorilla Nation or Yahoo, or paid search, which do you feel is the most effective view that ultimately would have the most value to an advertiser, coming from which direction?
The most value for, if a show's primary source of audience was based on one of those, which would be the...
No, not only, which view would have the most value in your mind to a brand that wants to associate with the show? Because, you know, again, something through a video ad network may not have the same value because, you know, or bots, you know, getting video views.
I would go with a subscription, because a subscription means that that a viewer has already seen that content, has already identified that they know and love that content, and so that audience is going to be more engaged than somebody that might find it socially or through a paid distribution strategy.
I think for scale, I'd go with the Yahoo front page. But for the targeted audience, I would go for something like social media or one of these plays, because you know what these guys are talking about. There are some advertisers that come to us and say, we want, you know, 9 million streams a month for this program, and that's fine. That's their goal. But there are others, like we did a program with Bud Light, who wanted to reach the male, you know, that male audience. So we created a sports show that, you know, only got a less than 1 million streams a month, but it was the kind of audience they wanted. So I think that distinction's important.
For a brand that's always social to me, it's it's one thing. If Chobani tells me its yogurt tastes great, that's fine. But if Anna is my friend and she tells me Chobani tastes great, that's a lot more valuable.
I agree. I think social is very important. I think the one detractor from social is if you're a brand and you want to control the target audience, the context, and within which that video is seen. So I want to reach women within a cooking context. I want to do that on a cooking site. And the negative to social is great in that it's loved, it's beloved a beloved piece of content. It's been recommended, so there's true engagement around it. But I've now lost potentially the context, and there may be a woman that liked it, but her teenage son or the father of the football league or whatever it is now the one watching it. Now that's not to say that that's not valuable to the brand in some way, but it's definitely off target demo. And so that's the only detractor I see from, kind of putting it out across social. You have no control of kind of who the ultimate consuming demographic is.
Okay. Before we get to what will be the last question before we throw it out to the audience, we will have the Gorilla Nation, where the She Knows sizzle. So, even amongst ourselves here on the panel, there are many categories of types of companies that are creating premium, whether it's shows, videos, whatever you want to call it, content online, and there are many players within each space, all competing for eyeballs and dollars. We have, broad portals and destinations like Yahoo and Hulu. We have traditional media companies like Viacom and Scripps. We have what I'll call, studios / syndicators like Revision 3, Blip, Video Ad Networks, Tremor, Yumi, hybrid niche brands / ad networks, Evolve, Break Media, ad agencies. How do you see this all shaking out, Brian? Who are there? Can everyone play in this? Oh, and then we haven't even mentioned, who knows when Amazon and Netflix, and here they come. Can everyone play in this and each have a piece of the pie? What categories of companies are going to stand tallest? What do you think? Yeah. Besides your own, of course. It's a given that each of your companies.
Very difficult question to answer. I think, one of the biggest trends we see in the advertising side of the market is, clearly there's a march towards video, right? The consumers are online. And when you talk to agencies, it's, we want to work with sort of fewer, bigger, better partners, right? And that's, that obviously speaks to the likes of Yahoo and hopefully a company like ours at Evolve, where, we're playing in so many different sandboxes and have such reach. And so I think at the end of the day, it's going to be an issue about who can produce, sort of content that is sort of quality enough, it's premium enough, at a price point that's cost effective, and secure the distribution, whether that's purely web-based distribution, whether as that market evolves and turns into IPTV, and can you, and that's kind of a dynamic marketplace, right? I mean, how much of the total distribution and sort of share of eyeball does YouTube ultimately get? And then as you get integrated through Google TV and whatnot, and general IPTV, do they just absolutely dominate the landscape where even though there's fragmentation, you may be getting, you know, video consumption through, you know, different destinations, guys like us. Does it become meaningless if the sheer volume of the available distribution and you layer in a kind of traditional GRP model and you go, look, I want to get my CPMs down, I can get massive reach by buying through Google or someone else, screw it. I don't care that there's some higher quality, more targeted audience sort of distribution and consumption happening over here. It's just no longer efficient for me to transact against that distribution. And so, I mean, again, we're worried about it, right? I mean, we have to move up the funnel, become a bigger and bigger company, more and more uniques, more and more distribution, so that, you know, we're playing at a junior level in the sandbox of like a Yahoo or, you know, a Viacom or some of the others, you know, Scripps, and say, look, yes, you're going to go do the ad networks for just sheer raw, you know, kind of low engagement, low CPM, just pre-roll. You're going to go to the YouTubes and others for sheer scale against shows and product integration, or a Yahoo. But you're going to work with us to really produce the kind of programming where your brand gets smartly placed in and around it, and you're going to really reach a more targeted audience. So it's back to, you know, the Plum example, right? Where we're not trying to be Google. We're trying to be a solution for you want to reach a particular audience that you find high value, and you want to do it within the right context, the right sort of high quality environment. That's our value proposition, and it'll be interesting to see how, whether a year or 2 years from now, where that all sort of shakes out. There's massive movement on the agency and holding company side to try to really get efficient and lean about, you know, kind of how media in general is bought, and that's something that's a real meaningful dynamic. That's
so wait, who's going to win?
Yeah.
Ben Silverman's going to win. Sorry, he told me to say that.
He's everywhere.
He's going to bill me actually for having said his name. He gets a royalty. I think when I was at Ad Age, we had a series that Bob Garfield wrote called The Chaos Scenario, and it was kind of looking at just this idea of what happens if the old model collapses before the new model is built. And I don't think we're in the chaos scenario right now, but we're clearly in the kind of developmental, you know, larval stage or whatever. And I don't think there can be any answer to the question of who's going to win. I do think that there are some distinctions that are drawn now. Whenever you have an emerging discipline, so I'll speak now specifically to what I do, which has been called branded entertainment, including it's actually on my cards right now because it's a shorthand that people know. But I'll make an argument for my own obsolescence of that. You know, we're telling the brands we work with more and more, this is not about branded entertainment. This is understanding that everything about how all forms of content are created, financed, marketed, distributed, consumed is changing, and that everybody has to figure out what that is. Everybody's legacy model is becoming less efficient and less effective, and it's starting to seem that partnership models and figuring it out together is going to be a little easier than figuring it out separately, and I think we're just going to continue. But if you sit there with anybody who says they know what's going to emerge as the right model, or even if there's going to be one right model, I don't think we can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think good content rises to the top too. So things that are really good and smart, they get watched. And I agree. There's really there's no answer right now. And that's what's so exciting about the space. It's just such a fun place to play in, and so exciting to see how things are developing. I think the advertising piece of it is so interesting. You know, to see the kind of branded entertainment versus the kind of areas that are popping up now to just kind of buy into premium content like we were talking about earlier. So I don't think there's an answer, but good content always rises to the top.
And I think there's, each of the platforms or products that you mentioned offer something different for advertisers. An ad network, is going to be low CPM and mass reach. Revision 3 is going to offer premium content that you spend a little more for, but that you have a stronger direct connection with your audience. YouTube has got obviously a big strategy at play that is pretty exciting. And then there's, real-time bidding. There's all sorts of technology going on behind the scenes that tweaks it even further. And so there's definitely room for a lot of these products to be out there in the space. And I think each one is specialized for a specific need for that client. And oftentimes clients are going to be looking at using multiple products to go out and deliver on their objectives. So I think right now there's absolutely an opportunity for all of them. And I think the evolution of what's happening around online video is happening so much faster now that it is exciting to see now. And I think in 6 to 12 months, it'll be even more exciting.
Yeah, my perspective from working with or having worked with all these categories of companies and the volume within each category is ultimately there isn't going to be room for everyone to get consumer mind share and make money. Having said that, anyone who says they know the answer is lying. It's interesting time to be in this business, so stay tuned. Anybody else want to have final thoughts on the panel before we throw it out to questions?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I think it will be interesting is when you look at media and you look at media online, there's an overall march to, sort of the commoditization of media, right? And a lot of that's driven by agency holding companies to figure out, look, there's so much fragmentation, there's so many sort of FTEs necessary to plan and execute media, so many buy points, different technologies. How do I lean that up? Because I can't just go and spend $1 billion on through Martini Lunch. I have to, there's a lot more cost on the agency side to actually put money to work. And so they're effectively doing it on the display side, right? They're cramming everything down into DSPs through trading desks, and they're on their way to aggregating through standardization video and pulling them into exchanges and marching down the sort of the commodity route. And it's not there yet, but you'll see it at some point. Mobile's next, social, they got to kind of figure out a way to do that. But they're trying to figure out, how do I get scale? How do I get transactional efficiency? And the only way to really do that is try to bring all inventory and all audiences down to a common level and then use technology to justify target and ROI. And so that leaves branded entertainment and some of the models that we're all kind of playing in. It's interesting. It leaves it kind of up in the air. I mean, there's always going to be a pool of money spent for great content, big ideas, the sponsorship model. But what I'm seeing across the board is as online spend goes like this, the percentage that's going against the sponsorship segment of it is getting smaller and tighter, and that's where agencies are saying, look, you take an MEC, I want to work with fewer, bigger, better, and execute the sponsorship. Everything else, I'm going to jam it through Xaxis, and I just want to get some efficiency out of this. And it'll be interesting to see on the kind of branded entertainment side, the higher quality, what happens a year from now.
Great. Questions, anybody? Okay, I'm blind without my glasses, so whoever it is, stand up, yell loudly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already sort of addressed that a little bit with, the fact that I think celebrities are a lot more important than we thought. Originally, our approach at Yahoo was it's really about the content and not even about the person who delivers it. We did a lot of focus testing on our programs and found that some of the ones that were most successful were the ones that were voiceover and didn't have a host. But I think that if you find the right celebrity for the right audience, it can be extremely effective in terms of driving audience and also getting brands excited that you have a big name attached, which is happening more and more as we go forward.
But I think moving beyond the traditional definition of celebrity, you look at Philly D or Epic Mealtime. I mean, these guys are actually celebrities when they walk down the street. Their audience, whatever demographic they're reaching, clamor to them and look to them the same way somebody looks to a movie star or traditional celebrity. So I think the definition of a celebrity is expanding as well.
But you raised a good point earlier too. It can't be phony. I think a lot of Hollywood folks and a lot of people feel like they should be in this space and they should have a web show. And if it's phony, it just does not work. Or if it's not really connected with the audience. So I think that's a really key piece that I think you've written about this, that a lot of people get involved in the space, and then they just blow it with the community pretty quickly.
I think the cool thing for brands is that there was this issue for a while of backing away from celebrity because you just don't know what personal situation some of them are going to end up in, and this fear of, what can happen there. And I think the beauty of the content space is you can still tap the power of celebrity, the instant recognition, the audience credibility, the ability to draw people in. But frankly, you're not talking about endorsements, you're talking about them being part of a cool content concept. And so there's a little more, you still want them to be right, you want them to obviously reflect the essence of the brand but there's a lot less fear of what they might do, and so you're almost seeing more brands, I think, head back towards celebrity in the content space.
Yeah, no, I think celebrities, it all boils down to what does it cost you to secure that talent, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pick the right talent. It's got to make sense for, sort of the theme and what you're shooting and the storyline, and you got to hope that talent's going to help you attract some distribution, some audience. But at the end of the day, if you can get it for 10, 15K and you can sell the package to a sponsor for 200, that makes sense. A lot of times, those are diametrically opposed. They just don't. So finding that perfect balance of, Yahoo can get away with paying a celeb slightly more, right? Because they got the secured distribution. That then attracts an advertiser to spend more money. And so therefore, when you look at the cost of that talent as a percentage of total production or as a percentage of total, IO size, it's doable. A lot of guys can't do that. They're like, oh God, when I look at how much I'm going to be able to sort of charge for this and what that talent wants, that doesn't work.
After all, the new definition of celebrity is anyone that has a 72-day marriage, so that's what you look for. I think one or two more questions we have time for. One more. Okay, you're the lucky winner. Go ahead.
So for Revision 3, I'd say about 5% of our total revenue is coming from branded entertainment, the content that we're creating exclusively for a brand. But we do in-show host reads and product placements, which are more kind of bringing a brand into existing editorial, and that's probably closer to 65 or 70%. And then the remainder being dynamic pre-rolls and flash overlays and ads that we can do around the content.
Yeah, I would say this past year has probably been more like 75% of our stuff is branded entertainment. A lot less now because it's not a scalable model for us. So we're trying to offer different ways that advertisers can buy into premium content without having to underwrite the cost of an entire show. Because we've gotten feedback from our sales partners that's just for some people not realistic. But we still have a very robust branded entertainment experience, and I would say I don't think it's declining. I just think that we need to have a broader menu of options. You can't just have ad network and branded entertainment. You've got to have some stuff in between. And I think looking at 2012 and a lot of the deals we're working on, brands are getting even more involved. They're getting more excited about really owning something, being involved in the creative. So I don't think it's going away.
It was a question for the publishers, but I'll say the same thing. It's what's the definition of branded entertainment? And I think if you say that as a phrase will start to go away, if it means just a brand funding an original piece of content or product placement. But there are deals now where brands just want to get involved earlier, they want to be a partner earlier, and sometimes that's not going to result in anything more than what might look to the eye like they bought, they had an exclusive category presence in there, but it's the fact that they were able to identify early, attach early, and ride the growth of something, and you wouldn't call it branded entertainment, but it is.
Yeah, for us, it's hard to say we have a lot of different business units, but when I look at, video we don't just think of video in sort of a linear sense. When we sell a program to a particular brand, I don't care who it is, Jen Mills, Tostinos, we're much more about building a custom integrated sort of content experience against the audience, and video, whether you want to call it branded video, whether it's, and a lot of times it's a video series we're already producing and there's some level of brand integration, so we'll just call that branded entertainment. That's a piece or a component of a larger package, but we're selling the sort of high impact integrated custom package against the right audience, which is really more of a publisher play than we're just going to produce a show, get it out on YouTube, Hulu, try to get some distribution through ad-served units, and try to sell, an advertiser into a pre-roll, post-roll segment on it.
This was an awesome panel. I enjoyed it. So thank you, everyone.